For years, two separate communities have described being attacked by advanced, unseen technology. One group has called it electronic harassment and non-consensual human experimentation.
Non-consensual human experimentation. Many of my attacks were microwave weapons. Medusa is one. I could hear voices.
The other calls it Havana Syndrome, or more formally, anomalous health incidents.
Anomalous health incidents, or more commonly known as Havana Syndrome.
Both groups say they weren't believed. Both allege some form of cover-up. When narratives that once existed in separate worlds begin to overlap, something shifts. Not necessarily the facts, but the language and the legitimacy. The question isn't whether these claims are true. The question is, what happens when they begin to sound the same? In 2026, new voices entered the conversation. A man known only as AJ, described as a former CIA officer, claimed he had been attacked with a directed energy weapon. Sarah Adams, who also claims a background in intelligence, amplified the warning. Today, the targets are intelligence officers, diplomats, and service members. How long before our adversaries turn these weapons on American citizens? The responses came quickly. What do you think targeted individuals was about? Come on, Sarah. These weapons are already being used on citizens. It is happening to thousands of US civilians who are used as experiments. US civilians are being diagnosed with Havana Syndrome. Being targeted is much different. Yes, some civilians have it. You missed my point. When Adams used the word targeted, she likely meant something very specific, a deliberate intelligence operation against a chosen individual. But in the targeted individual community, the word carries a different meaning. For them, targeted describes the entire experience. Are claims of invisible energy attacks between rival states new? What some are referencing is a Cold War incident known as the Moscow Signal. Beginning in the 1950s, US officials detected microwave radiation directed at the American embassy in Moscow. The purpose of the microwaves was never fully agreed upon. Some believed it was linked to electronic jamming or even surveillance. Others raised concerns about possible biological effects. What is clear is that American diplomats raised concerns. The Soviet government denied wrongdoing, and for years the full details remained classified. For some, that history strengthens the case that a foreign adversary could be responsible today. For others, it raises a different question. If this existed decades ago, what else might have developed since?
Targeted tales.
In 2024, a congressional hearing on anomalous health incidents offered one possible answer.
There was a Russian nexus. Harassment, room intrusions, houses being defiled, pets poisoned, officers and diplomats being drugged, families harassed, then an attack via directed energy.
For some officials, the pattern points outward. A foreign adversary, a continuation of past behavior. Within the targeted individual community, the interpretation is often the opposite. Not foreign actors, but domestic ones. Not geopolitical conflict, but internal targeting.
My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture.
Families harassed. Directed energy. Familiar language. Two interpretations. Same vocabulary. Is there more than one thing going on here? Some have pointed out that reports involving civilians, like Len Bear, don't neatly fit a purely foreign adversary explanation. Political scientist Armin Krishnan has suggested another possibility. I think these could be different issues, and there could be different perpetrators, different contexts in which that is happening. It's plausible that there is some unethical human experimentation, and then there is also something else going on. Adversaries targeting key US government personnel to destabilize the US government and to test their weapons. Not one explanation, but more than one. There is precedent, and there are patterns. But there are also anomalies. In early reporting on Havana Syndrome, some private American citizens who had been abroad said they had experienced strange symptoms. Those early cases were largely forgotten, and it remains unclear how they should be understood. More recently, the narrative appears to be shifting. Not just diplomats, not just intelligence officers, but civilians. Inside the United States, this suggests an evolution, not just in claims, but in who is being recognized, and in how those claims are framed. A former CIA officer said, "I've had multiple people come up to me that were targeted individuals. There's a lot of people out there that are suffering from this. I'm convinced that they are being hit with these weapons." What was it, Medusa? That was also looking to do the voice-to-skull kind of technology, where you basically use the Frey effect. Implant thoughts in people's heads. Voices. Voice-to-skull. If you had only heard that phrase, without context, would you have assumed it came from a former intelligence officer or from someone in the targeted individual community? In 1995, the film Strange Days imagined a device originally developed for federal surveillance, one capable of recording human experience directly from the brain. In the story, the technology doesn't stay contained. It leaks. It spreads. And once it does, no one is quite sure who controls it anymore. In the film, a woman named Iris witnesses something she wasn't meant to see. She tries to warn someone, but the truth is buried, and she's silenced. Who can Iris trust? The authorities? They're involved. Who would believe her? She exists on the margins and has no credibility. Elsewhere, many who identify as targeted individuals describe something similar. An experience they believe is real, and an inability to convince others to listen. In Strange Days, the threat isn't external. It comes from within. Corruption, misdirection, and uncertainty about who is responsible. That same uncertainty sits at the center of today's debate. In the film, Lenny, a former LAPD detective, no longer fully belongs to the system he once served. He's outside it, but still pulled toward it. His reputation, damaged. His position, uncertain. Today, some former government officials who claim to have been targeted occupy a similarly ambiguous position, close enough to be heard, but not always believed, connected, but no longer protected, and, at times, questioning the system they once belonged to. In Strange Days, Iris reaches out to Lenny for help, to tell him what she saw, what's at stake. Once he learns the truth, for a moment, he considers using it for something else, something personal, but eventually, he's forced to decide what to do with the truth. In another setting, similar tensions emerge. Messages that some believe reveal something larger, appeals for recognition, for action, for help, and those positioned to hear them faced with a choice. In Strange Days, technology made it possible to experience reality through someone else's perspective. Today, two very different groups are describing encounters with something they cannot see and cannot easily prove. Their explanations differ, their conclusions seemingly conflict, but their stories are getting closer. Some say, help is on the way. Is it? Or is it already too late? Strange Days.